Just get out from my face. If you'd put the camera down because you're going to be searched, okay, for this moment. So I could ask you. Hello, I've just had a report from 2 members of the public. Just get out from my face.
Back a little bit.
No, I've had 2 reports from 2 members of the public saying that you've been here. They think your actions have been quite suspicious, videoing the security centre over on the right-hand side there. Could you tell me what your business is here today?
I'm just testing my camera.
You're testing your camera. So the reason, obviously, we're speaking to you today is obviously at the moment the counter-terrorism level is quite high. Do you realise that? Did you realise that was a question?
There hasn't been an attack for a few years now, no?
No, but the threat level is still considered to be quite hard. It's generally quite in the news, but if you're not, I've just educated you. The fact that it is.
Yeah, cool,
okay,
man.
You understand that.
Cool.
And obviously, some of the tactics that these people employ, unfortunately, is sort of reconnaissance. It's much what you're probably doing, taking some form of video footage
I'm not doing reconnaissance.
on cameras. Okay, but you can understand that your actions at the moment do look like that. Do you understand that?
I understand that you think that, yeah, but it's not the fact. It's not the truth. That I haven't got any sinister intention.
Okay, cool. What's your name, please, buddy, so I can just confirm who you are?
I'm not prepared to give my name.
Well, if you can allow me to confirm who you are, then I can establish your identity, and in which case, after that, then I can confirm the fact that you may or may not be obviously doing what you're doing reasonably.
Even after User 1 calmly explains that he is simply testing his camera, the officers do not pause or reassess the situation, and instead move straight towards citing the current counter-terror climate while introducing the idea of reconnaissance, which is a serious label to attach to someone filming a well-known landmark that jumped from ordinary filming to suspicion, reveals a lot about the approach being taken because capturing footage of a location that is photographed every day by the public suddenly becomes framed as something concerning based solely on a report that someone appeared suspicious rather than checking whether the actual behavior supports that claim. The focus quickly shifts toward obtaining User 1's personal details, not because a clear offense has been identified, but because doing so would help justify the stop after it has already taken place, which highlights a pattern of acting first and attempting to establish grounds after.
Because if you don't confirm who you are, then that's going to put some doubt around your identity, in which case that's going to start to make me a bit more suspicious about your actions, about what you're doing here today. However, if you're willing to give me your name and I can identify who you are, then we can take a step forward about what you're doing is reasonable or not. So, 1, can you give me your personal details, and 2, do you have any photographic ID, please?
I don't have any photographic ID, and I can't give you my details. I'm in a public place.
I'm going to explain it just one more time for you, okay?
Yeah, okay.
So, obviously, your actions have been reported to me by 2 members of the public. It's deemed to be suspicious. I've told you around, obviously, the threat level in terms of terrorists at the moment is quite high.
I'm not a terrorist.
So I'm telling you that's the threat level. I'm not saying whether you're a terrorist or not. I'm also telling you, obviously, your actions around one of the main security buildings in London is also deemed to be suspicious. And an easy way for me to establish whether or not what you're telling me is the truth would be to establish your identification. So at the moment, you're making me a lot more suspicious and starting to sort of ground up a few more grounds of whether or not I think what you're doing is reasonable or not.
I'm doing nothing wrong. I'm in a public place. I've got no sinister intentions. I understand what you're saying. This looks suspicious. I'm not prepared to give my name.
You're not prepared to give me that?
No, and I won't change your mind either. So you can do it.
Why is that?
Well, I told you why. Because I'm in a public place and I'm doing nothing wrong.
What stands out here is how the officer begins to treat privacy itself as a sign of suspicion, because User 1 choosing not to give personal details is framed as if it confirms wrongdoing, which reverses the logic of the interaction. In a public setting, people are generally free to carry out ordinary lawful activity without having to identify themselves unless a specific legal power requires it. And in this situation, no such power has been clearly stated. The idea that the only way to verify whether User 1 is being truthful is by obtaining his identity does not align with how accountability is meant to work, because officers are expected to base their actions on observable behavior and clear lawful grounds rather than on whether someone agrees to provide their name. And that distinction highlights a gap between what is being demanded and what is actually justified under the law.
I'm just saying I know my rights and I don't have to provide my name.
Okay, mate. What's going to happen at this point? Always going to ask you to put the camera down because you're going to be searched, okay, for this moment. So I'll ask you to put the camera down. You're going to be stopped and searched under the Terrorism Act, okay? Fine. Do you understand that?
I understand.
Okay.
Fully.
That's in your property with that name and address. Is that you? And if it's not, why have you got it?
Yeah, that's me, yeah.
That's you. Fantastic. Have you got a date of birth, please? You have, right? And what is your name and address, please? So I can confirm that's you, as opposed to... So what's the name and address on it?
I'm telling you, that's me. I know the address on it. I'm not giving you my details. I've confirmed that's my name and address. I've gone further than I wanted to. I know the name and address on there, man. I'm not confirming it. if
then
you...
I don't know that's you. If you can't...
Well, it is me. Well, you can arrest me then, can't you? And we'll sort it out back at the station. It is me. I'm not telling you.
Why are you being so difficult?
I'm not being difficult. I don't have...
You're being extreme.
I'm exercising my rights.
Okay.
You've got ID. It's in my bag. You can run a name check. You've got what you wanted.
The moment user 1 refuses to provide his details, the tone shifts noticeably, and the officer moves straight into using stop and search powers, which raise a concern because physical control is applied before any clear legal basis is explained, and only afterward is a terrorism act mentioned as justification under Section 43 that power requires reasonable suspicion of involvement in terrorism and is intended for searching for item connected to that type of offense, not as a way to regain control during a disagreement. It does not give open access to examine personal paperwork or private correspondence without proper grounds. While the officers continue to press for his identity, user 1 highlights the obvious point that if they genuinely believe an offense has taken place, then arrest would be the proper route, which emphasizes a gap between the seriousness of the powers being referenced and the lack of a clearly established basis for using them.
Some main Arabic film scripts as well. Any idea why you would have that? Bearing in mind, you've already said you don't understand what it says.
We chuck that and that through intelligence as well, please, mate.
Just to let you know, we are also recording, so feel free to stop because we've got it all as well. It's entirely up to you.
Oh yeah, but the only difference is if I make a freedom of information request, I won't get it.
I don't know what you're allowed and what you aren't.
No, you're not allowed it, so I'd rather have my own documentation if that's okay.
No problem at all.
You're still here because effectively what we've obviously gathered is there's a piece of property that may or may not belong to you. So
It belongs to me. I'm telling you, it belongs to me.
Just to let me finish,
Sorry,
and I can
sorry.
explain to you. So we're investigating obviously a matter of whether or not that's a case of handling stolen goods or not.
Yeah.
The other matter is obviously some of the scripture I've seen in there, and still your actions I feel to be suspicious. So obviously going to be investigation around these sort of the terrorist sort of activities, okay, that you may or may not be involved in. That's why you're still being detained. A reasonable
I didn't even want to... A reasonable normal person.
A reasonable normal person would be able to provide me their name and address and be able to tell me what's on that sheet of paper.
Well, I'll do it back at the station, won't it?
Okay.
A sheet of paper with Arabic writing on it suddenly becomes treated as a concern with suggestions that it should be checked as if the language itself implies a threat, and that shift reveals how far the reasoning has drifted from any solid basis. When that line of thought leads nowhere, the focus quickly moves to a letter he is carrying, and within moments it is suggested that it might not belong to him, which then turns into talk of stolen property without any evidence to support it. None of these claims are grounded in observable facts, and instead appear to stem from his refusal to provide personal details. Calling him abnormal or unreasonable for choosing to keep his identity private ignores a fundamental point, because declining to volunteer personal information is not an offense and does not in itself create suspicion or justify escalation.
You can do a check, and then we ask you questions to confirm that they are identical.
Yeah,
so if you can confirm that and it matches up, then that's a very quick way to identify you. But if you're not willing to cooperate with that, if you're not willing to tell me a little bit about yourself, then I can't confirm that the person we've got on the computer is you. So again, you've got that now third opportunity, another way that you could confirm who you are, your identity, in which case would avoid a lot more impact on you.
You're itching to arrest me. You might as well just get on with it.
I'm not, to be honest.
You might as well just get on with it. I'm not confirming anything. I'm not confirming or denying anything. How's it go?
The two reasons that you're still here, the two reasons why we've completed the search and that you're still being detained here, there's two matters that we are investigating.
Yeah. One, if I'm a terrorist.
The first is it's potentially the handling stolen goods. So there's a crime of either theft or handling stolen goods. Okay. You could confirm that whether that property is yours or not simply by providing your details, which is a very simple and reasonable thing to do. And the other matter is obviously we're still looking into the terrorism activities, because obviously the scripture you've got, the actions you've displayed.
What scripture? It's not scripture.
Even after the search finds nothing, user 1 is still being held, which raises an immediate question about what grounds remain to justify continuing the detention. Instead of letting him go, the explanation begins to shift again, with officers now suggesting possible theft based on a letter that is not connected to any clear offense, while also pointing to Arabic writing on a piece of paper and attempting to link it to terrorism concerns. This creates a serious issue because the presence of Arabic language or religious text on its own cannot form the basis of suspicion of terrorism, and does not meet any objective legal threshold. Treating a language or a written script as evidence of wrongdoing moves away from fact-based policing and into speculation, which highlights a lack of clear reasoning and reinforces how the justification continues to change rather than being supported by solid ground.
We can sort those two inquiries out. then you don't get arrested. If we can establish it's not stolen goods, you go on your way. If we can establish what's on there is all innocent, then you still go on your way, don't you?
For the record.
But that is all down to you providing your details and being cooperative.
Okay.
All the while you're not being cooperative makes it more suspicious and it'll take longer.
Okay. Well, the only thing I can prove is I'm not handling stolen goods. Who cares about that if you've pulled someone up for terrorism? Who cares about the handling stolen goods?
I could start looking into who you are, confirm who you are, in which case it could help actually.
Really?
Yeah.
So you can confirm I'm not handling stolen goods, but I might be a terrorist. Yeah, right.
There's some marked scars on you that, if you want to show me your right arm, that'd be great. I want to take your jacket off if you wouldn't mind. Okay,
You want me to?
No, you don't need to do that. That might confirm it's you. I need to see your whole arm.
Just sort around that way.
There we go. And also the back of your head.
Back of my head?
Yeah. Lump in the back of your head.
By this stage, the interaction has clearly become a pressure tactic where the message is reduced to a simple choice: give your details, and you can leave refuse and arrest as suggested. And that is not how the process is meant to operate, because an arrest must be based on a defined offense and necessity rather than used as leverage to obtain personal information, when the officers then begin demanding that he remove clothing to show scars on the back of his head. The situation moves even further away from the purpose of the original stop a search powers intended to locate items connected to a specific offense, and does not extend to examining a person's body without a clear and relevant reason. There is no obvious connection between scars and the suspicions being raised, which makes a request appear arbitrary rather than grounded in any legitimate investigative need, and further highlights the lack of a clear legal basis of the actions being...
2 members of the public phone you.
And your point is what?
You can consider this a security audit.
Right.
And you failed big time. All here.
So is that your intention? Is it to highlight lapses in security?
Not necessarily, but I think I just have.
You're displaying isn't normal behaviour in my mind. I've been doing policing probably for the last, excess of 20 years, so I'm fairly experienced.
You sound like a nice guy.
Sort of behave and react.
Yeah.
And this just doesn't seem quite normal.
Want to waste your time as much as we don't want to waste our own time. That's what we can't understand. Why
well, we're waiting on CCTV now, aren't we?
The stolen goods aspect of this, which now we know didn't exist, but at the time, because of you not being very cooperative, it made it very suspicious.
How do you feel the need to carry on filming?
I'm documenting this encounter.
No, you just keep...
Your film
becomes clear at this point is that the entire encounter is being driven by the initial phone calls rather than anything the officers have personally observed, because while a report from the public can justify attending a scene, it does not automatically create grounds to detain someone or treat them as a suspect. Instead of identifying a specific offense or behavior that meets a legal threshold, the officer falls back on the idea that the situation does not seem normal in his view, which highlights a serious issue, because policing powers are not meant to rely on personal impressions when action is based on what feels unusual rather than on what the law actually requires. A line between suspicion and opinion begins to disappear. Even the decision to wait for CCTV in the hope that something might eventually justify the stop only reinforces that point, because it shows the grounds are not already established and are instead being searched for after the fact.
2 members of public approach us, which is why you initially stopped today. Do you understand that bit?
We understand.
Okay, so the second bit is where you're filming, obviously the entrance, as like my colleague pointed out, a number of members of the public come in. Should complaints come in, and they haven't as yet, I'll be quite clear in that, no one's made a complaint as yet, but should a complaint come in around the fact that they feel either intimidated by that, or they find that your behaviour is either threatening, alarming, or is going to upset them in some way, then there could be some other offences that could be considered. So you could be liable to offences under the Public Order Act, or effectively breaching the Queen's Peace, both of which are arrestable, and you could end up at a police station. So just something to consider.
Because under the Terrorism Act,
I've never been stopped under the Terrorism Act.
Footage under the Terrorism Act.
I'll never... You need to film this, you need to review
the footage on there, mate, yeah. Because we need to be happy about what you're filming, okay? And unfortunately, we will be viewing it now.
You want to do that now?
Yes,
All
yes.
right.